Right now, an extraordinary moment unfolding in a courthouse in Manhattan. With Trump just a few feet away from her, E. Jean Carroll is on the stand. She's being cross-examined by Trump attorney Alina Habba. Once trial wraps for the day, our colleague Lisa Rubin is going to join the program. But we begin with E. Jean Carroll's incredible testimony so far. Today, she told a jury that one of the most powerful men in the planet assaulted her, lied about it, and ruined her reputation. To have the President of the United States, one of the most powerful persons on earth, call me a liar for 3 days and say it 26 times, I counted them, it ended the world I had been living in. And I lived in a new world, Carroll said. Hateful messages popped up on Twitter, on Facebook, hundreds of messages a day, some of them using the very same words Trump used to defame her, Carroll said. And according to Carroll, all of it happened because Trump lied about her. Quote, he said, I made up an accusation to sell a book. That is a lie. He said, I made up the accusation for publicity's sake. That is a lie. He said, my accusation damaged the real victims of sexual assault. That is a lie. He said, people like me who make false accusations are very dangerous, in very dangerous territory, that I shouldn't have done it for the sake of publicity. That is also a lie. Her attorney asked her, have you paid dearly, Miss Carroll? She responded, I've paid just about as dearly as possible to pay. Throughout her testimony, Trump huffed and he puffed. He slammed the table at one point, leading Judge Kaplan to ask him to keep his voice down. That did not stop Trump. NBC News reporting Carroll's lawyer, Sean Crowley, had called the former president out for continuing to make statements, as some jurors could hear him say, this really is a con job. Mr. Trump has the right to be present here. That right can be forfeited, and it can be forfeited if he is disruptive and if he disregards court orders, Kaplan said. Mr. Trump, I hope I don't have to consider excluding you from the trial. I understand you are very eager for me to do that. I would love it. I would love it, Trump replied, putting both hands in the air and shaking them. I know you would, because you just can't control yourself in this circumstance. You just can't, the judge responded. Through it all, Carroll continued to testify. She told the jury that when she won her first trial back in May, she thought Trump would finally stop his attacks. Quote, for a few glorious hours, I thought, this is it. But then, as she put it, Mr. Trump went on a CNN town hall and repeated the same lies. And that is where we start today with former acting U.S. Solicitor General Neil Katyal. And with me at the table, New York Times editorial board member Mara Gay and MSNBC host and legal analyst Katie Phang is back. Katie, let's start with you. Difficult to get through that testimony from Carroll, so emotional, so clear, the price she has paid for all of this?
I think people need to realize the confrontation in a courtroom setting from the victim of rape, which is E. Jean Carroll, and in the interest of full disclosure, I am friends with E. Jean Carroll. We have been friends for a while, but it doesn't color my legal analysis. I prosecuted sexual battery cases as a prosecutor. The confrontation between the victim of a rape and her rapist is always going to be a powerfully emotional and just incredibly traumatizing one. And the trauma is really the word that we need to focus on here because, number one, this isn't a criminal case, right? This is a civil case, but it's the same emotions that are involved. And we've talked as prosecutors about re-traumatizing a victim of sexual assault because every time they have to tell their stories, it's hard and you relive it over and over again. In this instance, when E. Jean Carroll has been trying to tell her story, it has just been interrupted constantly by Alina Habba. And I also want to step back for a second because as a trial lawyer, you always want to think about who's doing the cross-examination. You want to think about who's doing the presentation of the witnesses because there's the gender dynamic that's there. So to that extent, you don't have the Joe Tacopina anymore, right? You have the Alina Habba. But as you were describing at the beginning of the show, Alina Habba has been stepping in it all along the way. But for E. Jean to have to get up and do this again and again and again is one thing. But then for E. Jean to have to explain that it's not just when I go to court, she tells the jury what happens. She does. It's all day long. It's the death threats. It's the constant. It's never ending. And so I think the fact that somebody has the courage to go and do this, you have to take a moment and just realize that this is one of the most difficult days of E. Jean Carroll's life.
Right. Of all the forms of accountability, it has been a septuagenarian who's actually been able to hold him most accountable.
Well, that is satisfying to see him held accountable for something. But I guess I would ask you, too, as a former trial lawyer, I mean, it does feel to me, and I'm not an attorney, but you know, while she is going up and telling her story, and E. Jean Carroll is being exceptionally brave, as many women and really any victim of sexual assault will know, it seems that the former president is continuing to try to intimidate her.
Of course.
In the courtroom, in front of the entire world. And I guess I just wonder what consequences, if any, he may face because of that. I mean, what are we to make of that? You know, as laymen watching this, you just think, is he really going to get away with that as well?
So it's his right to be in court in a criminal or a civil arena. It is your right as a defendant or a litigant in court to be there. The fascinating dynamic was at the very beginning of the day when E. Jean Carroll walked into court. She went straight to the witness stand. Donald Trump didn't make eye contact with her directly. And I have yet to actually hear from what's been going on in court the fact that he is staring her down in any way. The coward that he is, he's trying to exact the intimidation through the hand motions. And really, the interaction has been the most confrontational with the judge, because obviously he cannot confront E. Jean Carroll directly in court in that manner. But your question is so well taken, because accountability can be different things. It could be jail time. It could be prison. It could be millions of dollars, as we've seen, that's already been, ordered in this case from that first jury. But her lawyers got up and they delivered the question for the jury, which is, how much is it going to take to make him stop? Because as we've seen, he won't. He'll do it, and he's taunting the judge because he wants to be able to get more fodder to be able to go outside and say, yet I am being the victim. I mean, and that's the absurdity of this, that he's claiming to be the victim in this very clear case where a jury has already found him liable for sexual assault and for defamation.
I mean, Neil, I want you to take a crack at Mara's question, which is there anything that can be done to stop this type of outburst?
I do. So first of all, I think Katie's point is a really important one. Last year, Jean Carroll relived this all in the first trial, and there was a jury trial, and they decided that Donald Trump was guilty of sex assault, was guilty of defamation, and required him to pay $5 million. Now we're having the second trial to decide, is there any way to get this guy to stop with the lies and the defamation of Jean Carroll? And what happened in court today was that when she was testifying, Trump did, what I can only describe as like a bad high school debater's trick, like started talking at the same time as she was testifying, saying that's not true and stuff like that, with the hope that the jury would overhear his insinuations and comments. There's nothing subtle about what Donald Trump was trying to do. He was blatantly trying to influence the jury, trying to provoke the judge into kicking him out of the courtroom. And to answer your question, the judge has that right. You have a right to go to your trial, as Katie says, but not when you misbehave. There's Supreme Court precedent that says at that point, even in a criminal trial, you can get kicked out of your own trial if you are disrespecting the court. That's what Trump's doing here. He's trying to create a circus and a spectacle because the last thing he wants people to talk about is what he did to Jean Carroll. It's much better for him if we're talking about this judge, kicking him out of the courtroom. And by the way, this judge, Lewis Kaplan, one of the very most respected judges in the entire country, obviously a guy who breaks no BS, and that's obviously a problem for Trump because Trump isn't just trying to intimidate Jean Carroll, he's trying to intimidate the judge, and this judge is having none of it.
Well, to your point about the scene, about the skeptical, Katie, there was a moment before E. Jean Carroll testified where there was a very tense exchange between Alina Habba and Judge Kaplan. Here's how it's described by CNN. Your Honor, clearly we're not going to finish this trial tomorrow, Habba said. This trial will go into next week. I'm asking Your Honor to have the kindness that my client deserves to be with his family tomorrow and not to have to choose to miss the trial that he has a right to be here for. Kaplan denied the request, asked Habba to sit down. Trump has the right to be present either in person or by counsel, Kaplan said, and nobody is stopping him from doing either. The application is denied. I will hear no further argument on it. None. Do you understand the word? None. Please sit down. An attempt to postpone this trial had already been rejected. Why try yet again, if not for the spectacle, if not for the scene?
for the client sitting next to her, which is really the only person she's doing this for. It is a foregone conclusion. There will be a multi-million-dollar verdict rendered by the second jury against Donald Trump. It is a foregone conclusion because a jury has already reached a determination that Donald Trump is a person who commits sexual assault on somebody like E. Jean Carroll and defames her. So she, as an Alina Habba, she's doing a few things. One, she's doing the spectacle for her client, but two, she's also doing it because she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. I am comfortable in saying that the lack of competency on the part of Alina Habba is glaringly obvious now. She has shown she does not know how to enter evidence. She has shown that she does not know how to impeach a witness. She does not have the requisite trial skills to be defending the former president of the United States in a multi-million-dollar defamation trial. And yet, you get what you pay for. And that is exactly what is happening to Donald Trump right now. He may like the fact that she is kowtowing to him and to the MAGA out there in public, but at the end of the day, number one, and for what it's worth, I would love to have a camera and audio in the courtroom so people could really see the spectacle that it is, but there are no cameras. There is no audio in that courtroom. So the only thing that's coming out of that courtroom is going to be Trump doing his pressers and Habba doing her pressers after court, saying what they say, which is always wrong. It is not an accurate relay of what happened in court. And that's a frustrating thing about what happens when there's this perversion of the judicial system.
Right. No, instead, you're